Good afternoon. My name is Dasha Kelly Hamilton. Welcome to Poemalogues. And this is a special edition of Poemalogues presented by Varsity Blood Centers of Wisconsin. We are going to talk about gift giving. Perfect time of year, right? And Poemalogues, as you may recall, we were here for the spring and we are almost back for our next season. So it's exciting to be able to kick off a new season with a conversation about how we're able to give and receive great, amazing things. And the way Poemalogues works is it's more of the log part than it is the poem part. But we use poems as a way to fall into different conversations. And it's a chance to meet some folks that are sort of in our neighborhood, but definitely closer than you would ever believe. And if not physically closer, we can definitely be reminded that we are emotionally, energetically, and experientially close. I know that sounds all gypsy like, but close to folks who are living near us and that we are neighbors with, virtually and otherwise. So, Poemalogues is an opportunity for us to fall in conversations that we wouldn't otherwise have. And as your city poet laureate, it is my honor to bring these folks and voices to the screen and into your screen and hopefully into your conversation. So, we are talking about gifts. And if you are like me, you don't need a reason to give or get anything, right? But this is the season where folks are starting to wonder, what should I get my father-in-law? And do I want to go all handmade? Do I want to go local? Are we going to have, how do we exchange gifts in the era of holiday trading and COVID? And then there's beyond the holidays, just in general. I mean, of course, we're all ramped up a bit more with this idea of wrapping and what's perfect and what's going to cost too much and what do you really, really want, your deepest heart desires. And then how do we feed this energy in March, in July? This idea of gift giving, sharing and trading gifts. There's a lot there. I don't know about you, but I certainly have my way that I go about giving gifts. Like the wedding registry, I try not to. I want to think of a gift all by myself. So, and then when it turns out to be a gift that was on the registry in the first place, we both feel good about it. So maybe you're the type who never gives gifts and you only give gift cards, or you have a guilt about receiving good things. There's so much inside these little wrapped boxes. So, but we're going to talk about exact gifts. We're going to talk about the ideas of gifts, and we're going to get to know a couple of your could be, would be neighbors as they tell us their gift stories. So that's how Poemalogues works. And of course, along the way, we will hear some poems in the middle. So looking forward to hearing the poems that our guests have found, and I'll share a little piece that I found about gifts at the end. So my first guest I'm going to ask to make their way to the screen. Her name is Tara Blazing. Tara, hello there.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can. You sound fantastic. So I love this color on you, by the way. I know that we just
Oh,
met, but you can just tell when someone is in their color, and I like it. It's bold, and it certainly speaks to the
thank you.
holidays. So
I
what
thought
type
the
of,
same when I was getting ready.
he said this all works. So I'm going to ask you to tell me a bit about your gift philosophy, loves and hates. But first, let's get to know who you are. Tell us your whole life story.
Wow, okay. So my name is Tara Blazing. I born and raised in the Milwaukee area, actually a proud Sherman Park girl, graduate of St. Joe and Antietam High School. Um, what else can I tell you about me? So I currently am a regional manager of donor recruitment at Varsity Blood Center of Wisconsin. And all of my friends know me as basically like the blood lady, or some of them call me a vampire. I've been lucky enough to be in this world for, gosh, 14 years now. And really, it's not a job, it is a calling. It has to be because it's not easy. But what I do on a daily basis is make sure that our hospitals in the Milwaukee area have blood. And I was doing this job for many years and didn't really think that I had a personal connection to it. And then on September 4th, 2014, I had my personal connection. So I had complications when giving birth to my twins, Benny and Emmy, babies number 2 and 3, and needed an emergency blood transfusion. So it was really humbling and powerful to receive that gift, um, and really put all the pieces together. And the twins are now 6, so ever since then, especially, I have really it's just re-energized me in finding ways to make sure that we do have blood for people, because I've lived it firsthand that we need it, and it can only come from volunteer blood donors.
Hmm.
Outside of that, married to my wonderful husband, Scott. We ended up having two more babies, two more babies after the twins. So we have five kids altogether, ranging in age from 10 down to 14 months. And he is a saint and a stay-at-home dad of all five, so that I can do the important work that I do. And that's me in a
That's
nutshell.
incredible. That is incredible. And thank you for that, for sharing all of that narrative, and especially to know that you experienced the other side of the gift that you are encouraging other people to sign up and participate in. So I'd be curious to know, was there, so I don't want to call them excuses because people have reasons, but
Mhm.
being on the other side and that need of that emergency care, what I guess processed in your head in thinking about the people that you've approached, that your team has approached about becoming donors, when they did or when they didn't. So just everything changes when it's about you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. A couple things came into mind. One, immediately when I woke up from the surgery, I was so grateful for all of the safety precautions that we put in place and that are taken to make sure that the donors who are giving the blood that was transfused and in my body at that moment in time was safe. It's a lot of questions. I don't know if you've ever donated blood before, but it seems like 100 questions. It's not that many, but it seems like that. And some of them are very personal. But when you take the idea of, the blood that you are donating, it's not like milk. It's not like, we collect it and put it in a big vat and pasteurize it, right? It's literally from somebody's arm to a bag to somebody's arm. And to know that a few people's blood was now circulating in my system and was giving me the strength that I needed to now take care of these two newborn babies, um, and that I would be safe, and that I'd be safe to breastfeed right away because we take so many precautions. It was amazing, and it was humbling because, gift giving is something that I've been thinking a lot about as I was preparing for today. I feel like there's two sides of it. It can feel very selfless, but then there can also be a transactional piece to it. I'm giving to get, and not with necessarily like bad intentions. It's just human nature, right? Oh, Susie got me this, I better get her something, right? Um, but blood donation is one of those things where you have absolutely, even if you wanted to, no way of thanking that person who gave you blood, um, and no way of really kind of like soliciting it from that person who took the time to donate it so that it was there for you when you needed it. It's one of the very few gifts that is given that is completely selfless, with no expectation that it'll ever be returned or that you'll ever be thanked properly.
Hmm. That's funny. Oh my goodness. Now I have to go get Karen a thing because she gave me a spleen. I don't know what I'm going to do now. So I'd be curious to know, how do you describe your work to, I mean, other than being the blood lady?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking now about folks who may not have made an appointment to be in that chair. Like I personally am not able to give blood because I lived in a country for a period of time, and forever I'm not able to give blood because I was there then. Um, but by and large, how do you explain what you do? How do you, not so much like you said, not sell people into making this
Yeah,
gift,
well,
but what are conversations that you find are helpful for people to ultimately decide to make that ultimate gift?
yeah. So the first thing that I'll say, Dasha, is that we recently, and I mean recently, within the past 6 months, have gone through some changes in eligibility criteria, some pretty significant ones. So I don't know where it is that you live that caused you to be permanently deferred, but there's a chance that you may not be anymore.
Okay.
So we can talk offline about that, and I can
We
I can
do.
check into it for you. But as far as selling people on it, and right, it is selling people. Um, we are wanting to jab a needle in your arm. Let's be honest here, and take an hour out of your day, and that, gosh, time is valuable. And what do you get out of it? A cookie? Um, so that's a pretty tough sell. How do you
Yeah.
do that? So when we've done different research in focus groups and talked to people, the number one reason that people say that they have not donated blood, it's not the fear of needles, that's number two. The number one reason is that no one has ever asked them. So we make a point to, as much as possible, and we're only, I have a team of 6 people in the greater Milwaukee area. There's only 6 of us. But so we have to empower the community that we work with to be ambassadors on our behalf and to make that personal ask. So whether you belong to a church or a school or your workplace that's hosting a blood drive, we then work with those wonderful volunteer coordinators at those locations to educate them so that they can go make that ask. And I mean, it is literally, here's the schedule, Susan. What time can I mark you down for? Outside of doing that, there's some very specialized blood donations that we are really making an effort to educate, inspire, and motivate the community to donate. And one of those that I'm working very, very closely with, in fact, my whole team is the need for African American donors. So less than 2% of blood donors are African American. And I'll tell you why this is important. So, sickle cell disease. Um, you're probably familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a terrible disease. It is painful. Average life expectancy is still only 40 years. That's terrible in our day and age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the frontline treatment for sickle cell disease is whole blood exchange. So, patients will go in and actually have their entire blood volume exchanged. So, 8 to 12 units of blood once a month so that they get that blood out that has those sickled cells that causes the pain. And they have, fresh blood that keeps them able to go about their life and have a normal life and not have these terrible pain crises that ends them up in the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the best match for these whole blood transfusions, whole body blood transfusions, come from donors who have a very specialized type of blood called RO blood. Now, if you looked at all of Versity's blood donors in our donor base across our 5 states, tens of thousands of people, only about 4% are RO donors. However, within the African American community, 44% are
Oh,
RO
wow.
donors. So we have got to do a better job. And there's a lot of reasons
Sure.
why it's been challenging. And that could be it's a whole nother show.
That's a
Um,
whole, because I have questions and
it,
comments. It's a whole nother show. Yeah, I
yes,
know.
that's a whole nother, right? That's a series actually. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to go into the African American community in Milwaukee and educate about you are special. Like we need you
Mm-hmm.
because somebody who looks like you is going to save the life of somebody who needs it. It's not Versity coming and asking you to donate blood.
Sure.
It's your community, and you have something that we cannot manufacture. There is no way until somebody somewhere comes up with a way to come up with synthetic blood. It has to come from volunteer blood donors, and not only that, but specialized
Specialized.
volunteer blood
That's really
donors.
wild.
So getting people to feel special is one other way that we get them
Okay.
to donate.
Okay. That's really interesting, though, to know that the number one reason is because someone hasn't been asked directly. My goodness, I tell you what, the way that these organizers were on top of all of us to make sure we register to vote, just give them winter work. So they're busy
I was
during
taking
campaign
notes,
season.
trust me.
Because they're able to mobilize and ask people for the things
Yes.
that needs to have happen. Well, let me ask you this before I let you go. I wanted to find out about how this conversation that you've been thinking about gifts. How did that lead you to a poem? What poem did that take you to?
So, kind of back to the transactional piece of it. The word that I started thinking about was gratitude. And
Hmm.
gratitude, can, it doesn't have to, the transactional piece doesn't have to be bad, as I mentioned before. But when you give a gift, you're many times giving it because you feel gratitude for that person. And therefore, you're giving them a gift because that is a physical manifestation of that feeling of being grateful for them.
Yeah.
So And then of course, when you receive the gift, you're feeling grateful because somebody gave you a gift as well, right? So that was the word that popped up in my mind. It was gratitude.
Okay. Will you read the poem?
I will. All right. So it's called You Don't Know Me But by Laura Grace Weldon. I miss you, fellow walkers. Dad with double stroller, rainbow legging woman, earnest black hound hauling graybeard man on a never slack leash. I miss the Mark's checkout clerk with 3 nose rings, bitten nails, sardonic asides. Miss the librarian whose voice is soft as my mother's was, back when I sobbed myself weak, her hand stroking my hair while she looked out the window. Wherever you are now, I wish you well. Cast light around you. Each night before sleep, I want your granny to pull through, your job to stick around, your landlord to grant you every dispensation. I want flowers to sprout in your garbage, old milk to turn into yogurt. May your junk mail transform into loans forgiven, scholarships granted, grievances forgotten. May we see each other soon, smile in recognition, reimagine a world where we all breathe free.
I don't know what else better you can wish for someone, that there are flowers out of their garbage, that the mail becomes, oh, that's fantastic. What was it, Laura Walker? Was that right?
It was Laura Grace Weldon.
Weldon. Thank you. I always appreciate being introduced to new poems and new poets. So if you're able to hang out for a second, I want to have another conversation about gifts, and we can all come back and talk a little bit more. Our next guest coming to the screen, giving us her conversations about gift and gift giving, is Tracy Wiley. Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I really appreciate you making the time for this discussion, especially something that had a poem involved. How often do you get asked that in the course of your work week, right?
Never.
Not much at all. So really, I appreciate this and definitely this time of year to talk about gifts for the general populace. But in your line of work, you're asking about gifts on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely. So just a little background about who I am and what I do. So I work as a hospital relations liaison with First City Organ and Tissue. So we're the OPO, Organ Procurement Organization, Tissue Bank part of Versity. We're kind of unique in the sense that most organ procurement organizations and tissue banks are standalone, but we get to be part of a larger organization. Versity has been such a wonderful place to work. I've been with the organization since January 7th. 2 years ago will be my anniversary. Thank you. So it's interesting. To be quite frank, I didn't really know a whole lot about organ donation or the process of organ donation before I started working for Versity. I've always been a big supporter. I signed up the second I got my driver's license to be a donor. And unfortunately, I had a friend in college who had a bad accident. She got backed into by a forklift when she worked at a home improvement store, and she had internal damage, and she actually had to get an organ transplant. She had to get a kidney transplant. So I had some personal experience there, but I never really thought about what the process as a whole was like. I think most of us don't, right? I think most of us, besides just like, unless of course you work for an organ procurement organization, or you need an organ, you probably don't really think a lot about how it all happens, right?
Right.
So as organ procurement organizations, we work on the recovery side of things, right? So that can be its own level of challenge because we work with death and dying, right? Because we work with deceased donors. So it's such a beautiful thing to see a silver lining coming out of tragedy. It's a beautiful thing to see that lives are saved because we say yes to donation. We say yes when we sign up, or our friends or family members, if we haven't had that conversation, if we haven't thought about it, if we haven't signed up, they might be in a position to say yes on our behalf. But it's a beautiful thing to see that actually one organ donor can save up to 8 people's lives. I didn't know that when I first started. You know, I didn't really think about it. One person can save 8 lives, and for tissue donation, we don't hear a lot about tissue donation. Organ donation gets a lot more, you know, coverage and a lot more, people talk about it a lot more. With tissue donation, one donor can actually positively impact 75 plus lives. And that's, you know, that's just a general, I mean, depending on what's donated and stuff, could be even more. And we think tissue, you know, so many people could, I think the statistic is 1 in 20 people will be a tissue recipient in their lifetime. So it could be something as simple as a dental implant, or it could be something as life-saving as a heart valve. So tissue donation is also an incredibly important thing, and it doesn't get as much coverage, or as much, people don't talk about it.
Sure.
I think it's been an amazing thing to be a part of a team that, you know, saves lives. And I've worked in social work. So social work is my background, and I've worked for a lot of different organizations. And I always need to work for something, and to work in a realm where I am making a difference.
Wow.
And I've always done that in my past jobs. And this has been amazing because it's so direct, such a direct impact. You know, you're saving lives.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I want to ask you all the burning questions, but I'm just curious to know if you've been in social work for a length of time. So you've been in human services. When did you know, and how did you know that that's what you were going to commit your work life to?
Oh, you know what? I think it's probably always been there. For my whole life, I've always had this desire and need to help, and this sort of focus, this lens through social justice, and the you know, working towards everyone having the things that they basically need to have a healthy, happy life, right? So I've always been drawn to that. So I've worked in domestic violence and sexual assault services. I've worked at a day treatment organization for women involved in street level sex work. I've been involved with lots of different things that are really heavy on your heart, right? That pull on your heart, that are really, can be really challenging. I'm drawn to that. I think it can be uncomfortable sometimes to deal with some things, like for example, with organ donation and death. How uncomfortable. I had those fears. I was excited to apply for the job when I learned about it. And I was like, oh, this would be an amazing thing to be a part of. But I had that fear, right, of not knowing how challenging that might be. And having those comments. And I honestly, I'm kind of far removed from it, because as a liaison, I make sure the process goes well. I'm not actually the person that's I'm not our organ donation specialist or organ recovery specialist. These are amazing people that are working directly with families, that are working directly with the process. I more oversee the process, so I'm even further removed from it, you know? So I have such a huge respect for my colleagues and what they do every single day. So.
Oh, do you miss, especially if you come from the trenches, do you miss having that direct service experience, or did you find a satisfaction and a rhythm to coordinating as opposed to delivering?
Yeah, I think that there are times where I do, and there are times where I don't. You know, I'm also a mother, and I have 3 children. It's kind of cool. As a mother, I actually get to experience the full array of motherhood. My oldest is 14. He's my stepson. And then I have my daughter, who we adopted. She's 4. And then we have our biological son. He's 14 months. He was a surprise. So I get to experience the full array of, surprise.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like you and Tara could trade some support text messages.
Sure. So I mean, although I miss it, I'm challenged with motherhood right now. So that can be emotionally take a lot.
For sure. Because I was going to ask, especially with that being the tour of your career, what gift do you steal away for yourself? I mean, are you a crossword puzzler? Are you a hiker? You just
Oh,
Pinot Grigio? What is your thing to give you
yes.
some?
All of the above. No, it changes from day to day. There's some days where you might need something a little bit more, and other days where you don't even think about the self-care actually. But outdoors, I'd say being connected with nature always recharges me.
Okay. So here's a curious question. I wrote down, because the two words together, and I know you get this a lot, you're an organ procurement.
Procurement, it's the recovery side of things. So yeah, some people, and this is a very public service announcement, some people still use the term organ harvesting. And that's not a word or terminology that we try to use in our line of work, because it doesn't feel very respectful to the people who give the gift and the family members who are connected with it. They're not plants, they're humans. So it's the recovery side of things. So organ procurement organizations, we handle everything from the hospital. Their role is to make a referral and to recognize when a patient might need certain clinical triggers where they might not be doing so well, and maybe they're brain dead or near brain dead, or other factors. They call us, and then we facilitate that process. So we investigate and see if that person's a registered donor. We're able to look through medical records to see if medically they're suitable for donation, and all of those things. And then eventually, if we reach a point where the individual might be medically suitable, where they might move forward with donation, then we would approach the family about donation.
I see. So different from Tara's role, if I understand it, you're not necessarily introducing this option to someone who didn't plan on having a conversation about donation today, whereas you're dealing with families that are already in the midst of, okay.
Yeah, and sometimes the conversation is surprising to them, and sometimes it's not necessarily about asking the family if it's okay to move forward, but this person made their wishes known. They have registered to donate. They've made their wishes known, so it's more of facilitating what are the next steps and stuff like that. So here's another public service announcement. Sorry,
Bring it.
If you're a registered donor, and you support organ donation, and you said yes on your driver's license. Speaking of conversations we don't always have, please have that conversation with your family. Let them know what your wishes are, because nobody likes to be caught in that position, where they're surprised and they didn't know. And I think that it's been uncomfortable to talk about death, but I think this is one of those silver lining conversations. Most people don't know that actually very few people, when you sign up to be an organ donor, a lot of people assume they'll be organ donors. But actually, statistically speaking, 0.3 in 1,000 people are in a situation where they could donate their organ. And that's because of just circumstances, like they have to be in a hospital, on a ventilator, and then meet these certain clinical triggers. And so it's a rare gift indeed.
So you're saying the state trooper is not going to pull me over and pull me off into the ravine and dig out my organs with a spoon and sell them on the black market on eBay? Is that what you're telling me that's not going to happen?
No, it is a highly regulated process by the federal government, and that is not the process, no.
And we shouldn't be surprised how misinformation still lands with people as fact, and I personally am an organ donor, and I've done different campaigns and get other people to consider. So I do understand that there's still I'm gonna need this when I get to heaven. No, you won't.
Sure.
Someone's gonna, if I register, then that makes me a target for someone to come and take my organs. And the narrative of the person who wakes up in a hotel with their the surgery in the bathtub. These urban legends definitely feed into people's fear, not just about organs and tissue, but also Tara's work and blood donation. So there are a lot of real fears and exaggerated legends that make it hard for people to offer this gift. How do you reconcile that with someone who's close and on the fence and not, again, same thing, not to sell them or to schmooze them, but what information puts them at ease and helps them decide?
Sure, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. When we see organ donation in the media, it's never really through a positive lens. There's always these like terrible stories and everything. And that's the exposure that we get to organ donation. So then of course our view of organ donation is going to be, maybe we're a little afraid of it or don't necessarily understand it entirely. So maybe we don't say yes to donation. But I guess if I wouldn't, it's a very personal choice. Obviously, I wouldn't try to sell on it, but I guess maybe I would just ask them, what are some reasons why? Why? I've had a conversation with family members that said, nobody's going to want my organs. I've I've smoked, 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I've been eating cheeseburgers all my life, so nobody's going to want my organs. So even though I support donation, I'm not signing up because, that. Or, I've had another family member say that they're too old to donate. And here's the thing is that the oldest donor, I think, was 91 years old. Oldest organ donor was 91 years old. So, wow, you're not, it's not about, age or I just say yes to donation and then give, if, like I said, less than 1% of the population are actually going to be in that situation. But if they're able to assess and stuff like that, just let them do their job. It's not really the hospital that makes the decision. The hospital isn't really part of that process. It's the couple for those reasons, like trust, right? Because there is also another misconception that hospital staff are not going to work as hard to save you if they know that you're an organ donor. But that's the couple. That's not really part of their process. They don't really look at that or think about that. That's on us. And we only look at that once the referral's been made. So,
even you saying that dental implants is on the list, that already expands over people to consider, maybe, the liter of gin and the 9 packs of cigarette, but they could use your teeth, your eyeballs, your other organs and tissues. So that's really helpful for people to know. I want to know, Tracy, how did this conversation about gifts and giving enter you into a poem? What poem did it take you to?
Okay, so I was quite literally, and it's because of my job, very immersed in organ and tissue donation. You had said, what do you visualize when you visualize the word gift? And what I visualize is a driver's license with an orange dot on it that says yes to that gift, that anatomical gift. And so what I did is I Googled a poem about organ donation, and I found this, sorry, my thing's not working. And I found this one, and you know what, honestly, I don't really think that it fits the criteria of being a poem. It's more of an essay, but I thought it was beautiful and I would like to share. I think that it embodies what the spirit of that meaning is when we do sign up and say yes for organ and tissue donation. At a certain moment, a doctor will determine that my brain has ceased to function and that, for all intents and purposes, my life has stopped. When that happens, do not attempt to instill artificial life into my body by the use of a machine. And don't call this my deathbed. Let it be called the bed of life, and let my body be taken from it to help others lead fuller lives. Give my sight to the man who has never seen a sunrise, a baby's face, or love in the eyes of a woman. Give my heart to a person whose own heart has called nothing but endless days of pain. Give my blood to the teenager who was pulled from the wreckage of his car so that he might live to see his grandchildren play. Give my kidneys to the one who depends on a machine to exist from week to week. Take my bones, every muscle, every fiber and nerve in my body, and find a way to make a crippled child walk. Explore every corner of my brain. Take my cells if necessary and let them grow so that someday a speechless boy will shout at the crack of a bat and a deaf girl will hear the sound of rain against her window. Burn what is left of me and scatter the ashes to the winds to help the flowers grow. If you must bury something, let it be my faults, my weakness, and all prejudice against my fellow man. Give my sins to the devil, give my soul to God. If by chance you wish to remember me, do it with a kind deed or a word to someone who needs you. If you do all I've asked, I will live forever.
Yes, I love that. Give my eyes to someone with the sight to see their first grandchild. That may have been a different line, but that's what my heart received. And I really like that it makes me align with the piece that Tara found. I'm going to actually bring Tara back to the screen, and the three of us are going to chat a little bit. Whoa! And you're poets now. I don't know if you had it on your list of things that have happened before the year ended. 2020 brought us a lot, and now we're ending it with you as poets. Who knew? You're ready for your reading. You're ready for your next tour. But I really appreciate you both making the time for this, and I wanted to just have a few moments before we close out, just if there was anything else that you wanted to share or offer to one another, because you're soldiers in this work together. So this is absolutely the ultimate gift, to give and receive, and you both have given some personal and professional narratives on how we can think past what we know about this topic, and remember your stories, and of course these poems. But something you'd like to share with the folks before we leave about this gift season?
Yeah, I would say that especially a year like this, I mean, I hate the word unprecedented, right? We're all using it, but it's tough. We're all in a tough spot. Everyone's been touched in some way, some more significant than others, of course, right? And so it can feel like you just have nothing more to give. But I'll tell you, you do. You literally can save up to three people's lives with an hour of your time. And it's also one of the few times you can get out of your house, right? Even when we were on strict stay-at-home orders, donating blood is an essential activity, blessed by Governor Evers. So keep that in mind too. But again, if you're thinking of the perfect gift to give, I don't know that there is one more important or priceless, or that you'll be more grateful that somebody else gave when you're in your moment of need than the gift of donated blood.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Tracy, how about you?
Yeah, definitely, Tara. It's the gift of life. And it's the same as when you sign up and become an organ donor, you're potentially giving the gift of life. When I walk into university headquarters, they redid the whole front, and so there's all these bright orange, colorful signs and words. And one thing that always strikes me every time I walk in is it says, "People need people." And I think that's really the core of what we do, of the work that we do. And I think that during this season, the season of gift giving, and then the era of COVID with isolation, and how we're not with people as much as we normally are, not to forget that, people need people on all sorts of levels.
All sorts of levels and all different types of ways. And I applaud both of you and appreciate both of you for the work that you continue to do. And I wish you the best in this gift giving season of the traditional sorts. So I hope that you get all the wrappings or can give the packages that warm your heart. And you'll definitely continue to keep families in memory and in motion with the work you're doing.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you both much. And I really appreciate they've all had these poems to share as well. And I would like to share the little piece that I found as well. Again, the idea of a gift, we all have our personal experiences of giving and receiving. And in this time of year, we're thinking traditionally of boxes. And your smile can be a gift. Your time is a gift. Your consideration is a gift. And us having this moment to have conversations about greatest gifts is a gift as well. So this is called The Gift, and it's by a poet named Sarah Teasdale. What can I give you, my Lord, my lover, you who have given the world to me, showed me the light and the joy that covered the sweet wild earth and restless sea. All that I have are gifts of your giving. If I gave them again, you would find them old, and your soul would be weary of always living before the mirror of my life would hold. What shall I give you, my Lord, my lover, the gift that breaks the heart in me? I bid you awake at dawn and discover I have gone my way and left you free. Thank you for making time for this conversation, for this Poemalogue. We'll see you again with another series of topics and guests in January. And until then, be good to yourself first, and let's take care of each other. Have a great one.